Action! Konnichiwa, and welcome to another episode of Movie Reviews. My name is Daniela.
And I'm Alfonso. Today we're gonna review Kairo, directed by Kiyoshi Kurosawa. He's a Japanese filmmaker known for directing horror films like Cure and Kairo.
Kairo tells the story of two groups of people that discover that there's a spirit trying to invade the human world through the internet.
Very original and spooky.
Yes, exactly. And I think what made this movie spooky more than the main story was the sound, the music. I think that created a really spooky atmosphere, and I really like those cuts. Like we're listening to the music, like this, this like scary voice, and then it just suddenly cuts, and that creates more tension to the audience more than the movie, because there's no like jump scares or any scary faces, but it's mostly like the work of the music.
Right. The sound design is really, really scary, and that was a great rendition of the soundtrack, by the way. And yeah, like it creates a really tense atmosphere, and not only with the sound design, which you already mentioned, but also the production design with the gray walls, which look very aged, with everything.
Yes, and you know, like this movie was filmed in 2002, and just the themes that it touches are really interesting.
It is. It was when the internet was gaining mainstream appeal, and some people were scared of the internet, among them Kiyoshi Kurosawa, and this is a cautionary tale of sorts. It tries to say that people are trying to use the internet to get closer together, but they're actually getting more and more isolated. And that feels very important nowadays with the pandemic going on, with social media. People are feeling lonelier than ever.
Exactly. Yes, you're right. I think that was really well portrayed in the movie, with like the disappearance of the people and just certain aspects of it. Remember like when they like turn on the lights and there's this like black thing, this black stain in the wall, and then like they turn it on and it's that person, but then it's gone. It's just like, you know, a glimpse into how fast people come to your life and leave.
Yeah, very ephemeral. And that shot, by the way, I loved it, and it's the only shot in the film that made me jump. I don't know, maybe you thought it was predictable.
I thought it was predictable because we see like the camera is like still in the at the room, right? I think it's at the room, and then we see like the I don't know if I think it's Mishi like turning on the light, and there's nothing, there's just like this black stain. Like then she turns off the light, she walks away, but the camera is still in place, and you're like, of course she's gonna come back or something's gonna happen. And she turns on the light, and there's Tugashi they're hanging.
Hanging. Just hanging out. No, yeah, I didn't find it predictable. I don't know why. I thought I was hypnotized by the shots, which they were all very beautiful and gritty. But I don't know, as soon as he turned on the light and I saw the stain, I was already like captured by it because it had a human form. And then when he turns it on again and we see Tagashi, I don't know, it freaked me out. And I really loved it. And I like how the camera work is very static, very long takes. What do you think of the camera work? It was amazing for me.
Yeah, for me it was amazing. There's this scene in particular that I really like, where we see Haurem And she's looking at herself in the computer, and then she looks around and she starts like walking back, and we still see her in the computer, and then we see the view from the ghost or spectrum or whatever, his point of view, and then we see like again how we were trying to like reach for it, and just like how it looked glitched, and like all that scene for me was like really well achieved.
Yeah, that was a beautiful scene.
Yeah.
Harue was such a depressive person.
Mm-hmm.
She was trying to reach out to Kawashima or to anybody who would listen.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was like trying to die and hug the ghost, basically,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, that was depressing.
It was really depressing, and just like the way she dies, I don't know, I just thought it was very odd, like the ending of her character.
It was haunting. A lot of suicides on screen.
Yes.
We see a person falling from like 10 stories high. We see a couple of people shooting themselves.
Yeah.
It's crazy stuff. And this film was shot during an epidemic of suicides in Japan, which is crazy.
It is crazy. I think the dialogue was also very interesting, how they mention all of the time, we're gonna die, we're eventually all gonna die, and we're gonna die alone, and about loneliness, and
yeah, right, like it touches on themes of loneliness and death.
Mm-hmm.
and the internet, which we mentioned, but they refer to death as eternal loneliness, which I find very nihilistic, very, very depressing. They make it feel like it's eternal loneliness, but at the same time they are eager to die
Mm-hmm.
and to become ghosts. So that's a little confusing. It's definitely a confusing film, right?
It's a confusing film, yeah, because like they talk about death and loneliness, but I think they mention like how after you die, you reunite with like the people that are already dead, but then they talk about like how you're all alone, and I don't know, like it's strange, like it's contradictory at sometimes.
Yeah, and what's your theory? Like, what was this epidemic? Like, suddenly there was this post-apocalyptic world where there were no people.
Yeah.
Absolutely everybody was dying. So, why was that happening?
You know what? I'm not like of course like it all started with Taguchi and with the CD or something. So maybe that CD was like a virus in the computers of people, and then like everyone has like access to the computer, in the classroom. So I think maybe that after like you've seen that, or like you open your computer, you immediately see that video, remember, in the forbidden room, and that is like
it has to do with internet.
Yes.
Right? Like you watch this ghost online, and suddenly like they haunt you, and until you commit suicide or until you disintegrate into a ghost.
Exactly.
Something like that.
Yes. So that's my theory, because it was confusing to like follow. Like at the end they were like saying a lot of people disappeared.
Yeah.
And the streets looked completely empty. There was no one. Planes were crashing because people were just like disappearing out of the sudden. And
a scene that I really liked was when Kawashima was at the arcade or at the casino. I don't know if it was an arcade or a casino. And he was completely by himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a person that doesn't like computers, so it makes sense that everybody is already connected on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody is dead, or everybody became a ghost, and he's by himself at the casino.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a very striking image. And he didn't like computers.
Yeah.
So it took him a long time to use computers, so it took him a long time to become a ghost.
Yeah. And you know what? It's interesting now that you mention it. Made me think. Ever since like the first scenes, like since the beginning of the movie, like they're completely alone in the buses or in the university, like Kawuchima is like completely alone. You know, it's like a university. You expect like people walking around, but it's like right now I'm just thinking about how all of these scenes were just them alone.
Yeah, I thought that was greatly achieved by Kiyoshi. And like, I probably already mentioned once or twice, but the shot design in this was just beautiful. And he doesn't use a lot of close-ups. He uses a lot of static, long shots, which feel like somebody is watching. It's a very voyeuristic shot. Somebody is watching Kawashima being alone. It's probably the ghost. Somebody watches Harue. It's probably a ghost, right? It's a very voyeuristic shot, and they're all alone, and that's the point, right?
Yes.
They're all alone.
Yeah. Something that I really liked about the shots too was how they like framed some of them. So like the compositions of the scenes were like really good. I remember this one where Junko and Mishi are well, Junko is already like kind of infected by this virus, so she's like sitting on the floor, but then you see like the table on the first on like a first layer, and it's like framing her, and then the TV's on the side. I don't know, I just felt like that was really good.
Yeah, exactly. The compositions were beautiful, and they achieved very long takes with different keyframes, which was my favorite technical aspect of the film.
Yeah.
So they are in the greenhouse. Was it a greenhouse? And they start looking at Junko and Michi, and suddenly they dolly, and you have a new shot. That was great. I love that camera work. And apparently that's one of the trademarks of Kiyoshi. So I'm very eager to watch his other films.
Yes, yeah, I was very surprised with this film, and I was expecting to be scared, but just like technique wise, I thought it was really good. And also, I really like how all the atmosphere of the movie was really great, you know, like you already mentioned, like the great walls and everything, but I like how like there were some scenes that they added like a little bit of color, like in the buses, like the seats were red, or the yellow cars and the yellow boat at the end, just like those like small details of color. I like, they were very outstanding for me, and I really like that.
Right.
The things that I really enjoyed the most about this film were like definitely the music. You know, that was I think maybe number one, because that was what got me most
haunting.
Exactly.
Very ghostly. Exactly. I loved it as well.
The cinematography.
Beautiful.
I'm gonna say something I didn't like. I didn't like that some scenes were very, well, frustrating or maybe predictable. When Kuwashin and Mishi run out of gas, and he's just like, oh, there's some inside. I'm gonna go by myself after all of the things that are happening. And then he goes, he refills this thing with gas, and oh, surprise, the cap just falls and starts spinning like all caps do when they fall into the room, into the forbidden room.
Yeah, but I mean, I disagree, because that cap spinning was definitely provoked by an entity.
By a ghost, yeah. But
so I don't think that it casually fell. I think it was definitely provoked by a ghost.
But you wouldn't enter.
Oh, that's provoked by a ghost. Maybe it was predictable, but I thought it didn't really matter, because it's a thought-provoking film. It leaves you maybe a little bit depressed, but thinking about death, thinking about loneliness, thinking about internet and social media. So I really love that aspect of the film, and maybe you could see it coming, but I thought that was not important.
Yeah. It's time for the truth. It's time to give our ratings. I like this movie technique wise. All of the things we talked about, like cinematography, music, but I don't know, I was like really, really expecting to be scared, you know? I watched the trailer and I really didn't want to see this movie at the beginning and I was covering my eyes, and I think at the end like it let me down a little bit, the how like it ended and just how it how it progressed. So that's why I'm gonna give this movie a 6.
Oh,
Slow clap. Which is medium popcorn.
Medium popcorn, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think this film suffered from a marketing problem in your eyes. It was definitely marketed as a really scary film. The trailer compares it to The Ring and to The Grudge, so you expect jump scares, you expect a lot of stuff like that, and it's nothing like that. I would compare it to Tarkovsky. It's very reflective cinema, and I loved it. I thought it was a great film. I love the shot design, I love the sound editing, I love the music. I'm deciding to rate it with 9 popcorn to take.
Okay. Good.
So, Danny, tell us, what's the film for next week?
Okay, so the movie for next week is La Llorona. Directed by Kairo Bustamante.
That's great. I'm very eager to watch it.
Yeah, me too.
The Weeping Woman.
Exactly. This was everything for today. If you're interested in Japanese horror films or just, thoughtful films, we recommend you to watch this movie. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, we have a lot more of different movies. And we'll see you next Friday for another scary movie review.
See you next Friday.
Arigato!